Good evening, good evening, everybody. Well, it is Monday night, and you know what that means. Tonight, it is Worship and Wellness Night. I am so excited that you are here. I want to know who's here, so make sure you kind of chime in and you go and tell me who is here, so we can know, we can shout you out. Today we are talking. I mean, this is the month of September, right? So while some of you might still be out your little barbecue and your cookout, having some good old barbecue cookout food, the truth of the matter is, I know there are many more of you who are preparing your children for school this week. So for the month of September, we will be focusing on education. And tonight we have some serious educators in the house. So I want you to make sure that you're sharing this link. Hey, buddy, I love you. I miss you, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy. Do me a favor, share this link with those that are parents and educators, buddy. Please, please, please. I think it's very crucial that we kind of have a good little conversation about education, where it is. It's been a very tumultuous year last year for educators and parents alike, right? And now we are coming into another school year where there is another new change. And I'm sure many parents are having some feelings of anxiety. I'm sure educators are having feelings of anxiety. And, you know, here at Worship and Wellness is where we believe in biblical principles with practical steps, right? And so what better way to get that information on what to do and how to behave and how to operate biblically, but through the eyes of educators. So today I'm going to introduce, but before we do, we're going to have a quick word of prayer like we do every week. And I want you to continue to chime in and say hello, sharing is caring. So even for my speakers, if you do have your Facebook, you can share this live so that those that are connected to you can also join in the conversation. All right, let's go before God in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank and praise your name for this day. We thank you for today, God. We cannot ask for anything for tomorrow because tomorrow is not promised and yesterday is gone. But for today, we just like to say thank you, oh God. Thank you for the workshop on today. Thank you for the session on today about education. And when educators speak, Father, I ask right now that today's lesson will be a lesson of clarity and understanding, and that today's lesson will be on be able to provide parents and educators a sense of peace and clarification. So we give you all the honor and the glory. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, with that being said, I'm going to bring, hey, cuz, oh yes, I'm glad you on, Ron, because I know I want to hear from you and I want to hear some insight when you are listening to these educators, as I know you have a few left in the school system. So share it. All right, tonight, my first person that I would like to introduce is, her name is Kendra Bethel. She has been she is a educator by generation, right? Like her mom was in education and now she is in education, and she is an amazing teacher. I will bring her on. Her name is Kendra Bethel, and we would like to say hello, Kendra.
Hey, hi,
How
everybody.
are you this evening?
I'm good. I'm excited.
Good, very good. Well, I'm excited to have you. I want you to just kind of share a little bit about just who you are, even though I kind of gave a little bit, but who you are, what led you into education, and what you do, or in any format that you want to say that in.
Okay. So I am a graduate of Lincoln University, the first HBCU, majored in elementary and early childhood education. I have a master's degree in curriculum and instruction, and I have been an educator going into my 22nd year this year.
20, so you look 22, girl. You look good.
That's the Lord. And so I've always wanted to be a teacher since I was probably in the second grade. I love my second grade teacher. Her name was Arlene Ballard from Perot Elementary.
Wow.
And she really helped me to understand my purpose. I knew it at an early age that something I wanted to do was to affect and change lives, and to see the outcome of when you start with you know how a plant grows, it starts with a seed and how it grows into this big, beautiful plant or a tree. I wanted to do that with kids. I wanted to see them blossom and grow and develop.
Yeah.
And I wanted to take a part in their purpose,
right,
their destiny, to help them reach that. And so that's why I got into education. And this year, this is my second year, I'm an early intervention teacher. I actually teach K-3 in early childhood reading, specializing in at-risk students at a school that needs some extra help in reading.
Right.
To decode and understand and comprehend, because if you can't read, you can't do much of anything.
This is true.
So that's right. So my job is to help fill in the gaps.
I love it. I love it. A gap filler. I know that place very well. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you joined us, Kendra. Next, I'm going to have another amazing educator by way of counselor. And so we have a teacher and a specialist on dealing directly with our children from that perspective, and now an educator from the perspective of counselor. So Nikki Johnson. Hi, Nikki.
Good evening. Good evening. How's everybody? Thanks for joining us today.
Yep.
So you might have to repeat those questions for me, because you know I'm just trying to get back into school mode. So I should have wrote them down when you were giving them to Kendra. But can you repeat them for me again?
I sure will. Let's hope that I remember what I said.
Okay.
All right. So the question is, tell them a little bit about who you are, what led you into education, and kind of what you do now.
Okay, so I have been an educator in Anne Arundel County Public Schools I had to do the math, 23 years. Woo! I was like, wait a minute, I know I'm either one behind Kendra or one above Kendra, but I'm going into should be my 23rd year. So before I became a school counselor, I was a classroom teacher for a couple of years. And then I did a job as a behavior intervention specialist to kind of work with kids who were just having trouble socially and emotionally being prepared for school every day. So I really enjoyed being a third grade teacher when I was a third grade teacher, but I thought I spend most of my time talking to kids about their social and emotional wellness. Are they okay for the day, or something that happened at home the night before, or the family issue that they needed to talk about? And I really became a school counselor for this reason and this reason only. If kids do not have stable social and emotional wellness, if they are not okay when they show up to the building, or they're not getting strategies to be okay, then no real learning is taking place. They're sitting in classrooms as warm bodies, and people are teaching math and science and reading to them, and they're not gaining anything. And that's what's happened to many of our students, many people that are adults now, and they look at their lives and think school wasn't a great place. It probably was because your social and emotional wellness was not taken care of, whether it came from home or whether when you got to school, you were labeled as the bad kid or the kid that didn't listen. It's really every behavior thing has a social and emotional component to it. So I became a counselor because I felt like that's what I did every day. Talk to my kids about their social emotional wellness. And, I was getting my hand tapped about, come on, Nikki, you need to be on the next unit for math, so I thought, you know what, I will actually do what I enjoy every single day. So I would not trade it for the world. It gives you the best of all the worlds, the leadership opportunity. You work with families, you work with students, you work with staff, and you make a difference when it comes to educating the heart of a child. So I am more than blessed. A lot of times I'll get feedback from parents and people, my kids love you, this or that, or thank you so much. But you know what? You don't know what your kids do for me every single day. You don't know the blessing that they are in my life. So I really appreciate doing that. And I do have to, because I heard Kendra shout out a teacher from Mills Parole, Kendra. And I have to say, I really did think about school counseling a lot because I had the best high school counselor, Mrs. Helen Turner. So I don't know if Janae might be on here, her daughter, but Mrs. Helen Turner was the best school counselor. And the way that she helped me in my high school experience, I just wanted to start that process early for kids. We wait until kids get to be 16, 17, 18 years old, and then we want to do something about it. But our kids need guidance early on. So she was a great inspiration to becoming a school counselor.
That's awesome. That's awesome. If you are on here and you're watching us, I'm going to ask that you share. I want you to type in for those that are watching, somebody that either is a parent or an educator, and let them know that we are. So I want you to say, so I was an educator, so you can say, Tanya is a great parent, or Tanya was a great educator. Tag their name and tag who they are, because I think it's important that we get this message out. I am adding information. People are tagging in already. Kendra Bethel, the best teacher ever. Okay. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, we have one more to introduce. This person is special. You ladies are special to my heart too, but this person is special to my heart at all my parts. Okay. Anyway, that is none other than my husband, Paul Ayesi. He is an amazing educator as well. He comes from the special education side, and now has transitioned to being a PPW worker side. He, like Nikki has shared, is very much more passionate about the wellness of the family. And so I think this is such a good fit for him, and I will let him kind of join us. And hello,
Hey,
Mr. I. Yes, Mr. I. Mr.
my
I.
soup is there. So I'm not going to take up too much time to introduce myself, because Nikki kind of like hit everything that I would have said, really.
But we want to hear it in your words. So share three things for you. Hey, Apostle Coates is watching. Hey, Apostle.
All right. Well, I've been in education, I guess, almost 20 years now. I, of course, did special ed, more on the behavioral challenges side, because for me, I'm pretty nerdy, and I know most Black men probably wouldn't say, but I'm really like just an intellectual type of nerdy, geeky type of knowledge-based person. And I used to feel that many of the African-American kids, many of the kids who came from poverty, oftentimes were stigmatized. And for me, my heart gravitates to those kids, because those kids, believe it or not, for me, have intelligence, but just seen from a different perspective. So I just wanted to use a lot of my mental health therapy, a lot of my background, to be able to help them to understand why education is important in the same context as their goals, their dreams, because sometimes they don't feel connected to school, right? And being able to help them emotionally, psychologically, cognitively, behaviorally, right? How to channel their feelings, to be able to teach them those skills and those strategies, for me, was most important. So I've taken the evolution from special ed to general ed to, level 5. Like, I worked in so many different environments to be able to get to this place. And now I'm a pupil personnel worker. And I love that role exceptionally a great deal, because I get to do what I was doing in the classroom, but I get to expand it and really meet various families, various students, various agencies, and to be able to connect these families with the resources they need. Because many times, as Nikki said, it's how can we help those kids emotionally and socially and psychologically to be able to make that connection to what it is they can see early in their life. So, how can I say this? We use this word mentor, right? All educators, whether they believe it or not, they are mentors, right? And how they connect to their students, whether it's their relationship, whether it's the hobbies they share, whatever it is, whether it's the connection to their parents, is really what gravitates that student to really want to connect to that educator. So I don't care what level of educator you are, whether you're a teacher, or assistant, a principal, a PBW worker, a counselor, wherever you are in that education process, you are like really wear the role of like a teacher pastor, right? And it's our job really to minister to those kids, this is why I tell my kids to love the hell out of them, right? When they come to school, they got all this stuff going on, but if we love the hell out of them, guess what? They're going to feel gravitated to believe in you and trust in you, and even accept sometimes the most difficult things, the things that challenge them to change their perspective on how they handle our responses. So.
Wow, I appreciate. You see why I wanted you to speak? You see, you better come through. Yes, I like that. It is important that as educators, as parents, that we do love the hell out of our children, because they not that we're calling them hellish or hellions, but we all have a measure of hell that we deal with, and that with internally, right? Like, there's fire going on internally. And so to have people such as yourselves to be able to know how to speak to that youth, right? There is a level not only from a professional, but even, Paul tapped on it from a spiritual perspective. Sometimes it is just hugging them in a way, and we may be praying internally, but that prayer is ministering to that child. Or, being able to joke, with your student in a way that they can feel that connection one to another. So thank you all for giving that introduction. I love this. People are saying, my cousin said, I'm so excited. I'm excited, y'all. I'm excited, y'all. Me too. All right. So one of the things the big thing on the table right now is COVID and transitioning from virtual school to going back to school. And I don't want the conversation to get so fixated on the COVID piece. And tonight, I would like us to talk about what your thoughts and what things that you can share for parents and educators alike regarding going back to school. What are some of the things that you would like to talk about? So I will open it up, and I'm not going to pick on anybody, but you guys can chime in where you fit in. Or I will pick on you if it gets too quiet.
I'll chime in just because going back to their social and emotional needs being ready first for true education to take place. I think that a lot of people would try to send their children back, try to operate their homes in the fashion of what's normal. This is what we did before. This is how we did things. This is how, the bedtime that they had. This is what we did when we got home. They started, homework right away. Then they could go outside. I think it's really, really important that we understand that everybody is returning with a level of trauma, something that they have dealt with. Nobody foresaw or knew anything about COVID-19 and a pandemic. We've never lived through that before. So when you think about it, even with the greatest level of faith, there is a level of trauma that you're returning to this normalcy or what seems to be normal. I think that, you probably will hear myself and Kendra use these two words constantly because we use them a lot just in our system, which is grace and patience. It needs to be given to your kids. It needs to be given to yourself, and you need to give it to educators. Okay. People are a little bit of trial and error right now. We're returning kids to school full force, but they all have masks on. Okay. Yeah. That's something different. I was just thinking the other day, I've never taught in a mask because when I went back to school hybrid, I would wear my mask, of course, in the building. But when it was time to teach, guess what? I taught on the computer from my office with my mask off. So now I'm going to teach 4 and 5 classes, with my mask on. Okay, that was causing me a little level of anxiety the other day when I thought about it. So we have to really think about the fact that all of this will be new, and grace and patience. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not feeling that today. It's okay that my kids aren't feeling math from 10 to 10:50 or 10 to 11. It is okay. It is okay. My child does not feel like doing homework when they come home. We need to allow them to regroup and move back into and form new norms and new routines. And it may not look the same as it did before because life doesn't look the same as it did before.
That's really good. I think, the one thing that I hear loud and clear that for parents and educators is that we have to adapt new norms. And that can be very challenging because you have some people who oftentimes have a hard time transitioning, right? If I'm a person that operates out of systems and I have a hard time changing my systems, I'm going to have a hard time changing norms, which means that's another component. And the other piece that you said that is so very key is that we are all, every last one of us are returning with a level of trauma, whether you realize it or not, right? Going through this process. And so it's going to be very key that what did you say? I was going to say grace and mercy, but
grace and patience.
Grace and patience. There you go. Well, I think with grace and mercy, it should offer patience, right? Because that grace is, you can't have grace and not have patience. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Either one, Kendra, Paul.
What I was going to piggyback on Nikki, what she was saying was the grace and patience piece. Is that even as educators, give yourself grace and patience. what you're going to come back and do, we've always done, which is teach children.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, no matter what platform you're on, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, even in a mask, you're still going to teach children. And so that's what they need. They need your support. They need you to encourage them. And then also praise and reward our students about being brave and courageous to come back. Because some of us are afraid and our anxiety and stuff is heightened because we just don't know what is going on. We're not sure. One day it says something else. Another day it says this thing is going on, or it's another variant. And so the only thing I cannot take my believer hat off. The only thing I can trust is the God that I serve. That He will continue to protect me and my children and my students. So for the believer that's an educator, guess what? When the anxiety hat comes on and tries to cover you like a blanket, you know how to go to God in prayer. You set the tone for your day. You speak over yourself. You speak over your atmosphere.
That's good.
You know what I'm saying? Set the atmosphere in your classroom of peace and God's presence so that kids can feel safe. Because this is the thing. They may not feel safe walking to the store. They may not feel safe, in these different places that our parents take them and stuff like that. But they can feel safe in your classroom. They can still feel safe. Even in a pandemic, they can still feel safe. Certain things, you might want to do, go the extra mile, get some wipes, wipe them down, tell them how to clean their area, and that's even for our parents. I'm packing both of my kids with a kit. You're going to have Lysol, a little thing of Lysol. You're going to have wipes. You're going to have gloves so that no one is responsible for doing that for you. And it helps them to take responsibility of their own space. Yes. And so they won't feel like, oh, they didn't do this for me. No, I can do this for myself. This is my space. I can clean my space. I can have ownership. I can put my mask on. If I need a mask break, I can ask for one. Let's do that, please. I don't know how we're going to do it in all day. Because I tried it and I was like, oh my God, I'm about to die. I'm saying it's too hot. And so I had to go outside for about 5 minutes, take a mask break. And then I was able to come back in. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's really okay, So with that, I would just end with saying, model good coping skills and coping behaviors for the students too. If you're having a moment, it's okay to say, Miss Beth was having a moment.
That's right.
I'm going to get myself together. It's okay to have that conversation because kids watch you. And so when you give them coping skills and say, I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to go out. Let's go outside for a minute just to breathe some fresh air in.
Yeah.
And just to think about what we did today. And don't be afraid to slow it down.
Ooh, that's good.
Right. It's okay. It's okay. Just like Nikki was saying, it's okay that we didn't learn fractions today.
Yeah.
It's what they're not going nowhere. They still gonna be there.
That's right.
Right. So, and also let them be engaged in a learning piece. Right. So that's all I have for that.
Those are really, really, really good tools that you have given good wisdom, good insight, and good tools that we can pick up and use. Because again, biblical principles with practical steps, that means, we can know what the Bible says, but there's a part that we have to do. And you have given us some good to-dos to do. Good to-dos to do. That's good. That's what I like. That's what I like.
That's good. Very good. Kendra had her teacher hat on. So I'm going to piggyback off of Kendra because that's really where I was going to go. I have two things I want to say. The first thing is, of course, to all the educators who are here. When I was in the classroom, one thing I used to tell my students is, I don't care what the other classrooms are doing. In this classroom, these are the routines and the expectations, period. So for every educator on this link, you need to develop your own classroom expectations, your own routines that you're going to be able to model, as Kendra said, to your students, okay? Because at the end of the day, the other classrooms, their behavior management, classroom management can be out of control. I don't even care what's going on. I care what goes on in here because guess what? I can only control what's in this classroom, and you can only control what's in this classroom. So for me, that's the first thing. Before a book is picked up, before a lesson is taught, the first lesson that is taught, to go back to Nikki, is those social emotional expectations, because everyone has a right to be respected in that classroom. If that expectation is violated on any level, then at that point, there's a serious issue that needs to be addressed beyond a grade on a test or anything, okay? I start there first, okay? And I tell the kids, I want all your parents' numbers. I reach out to the parents. This is the second thing I should say. All educators should reach out to their parents and call them to figure out like what's the parent's expectation for their kid in that classroom. Because once you're able to develop that relationship with the parent knows that the educator really is invested in the student. And every parent wants that. I don't care if you come from a very affluent background or a very poor background. Every parent wants the educator that is fully invested in their kid. So that first week of school, every educator should be reaching out to parent, calling, leaving messages, saying, please call me, okay? And I don't know what the expectation now is in schools. I know when I was an educator, the parents used to have my numbers directly, and they would text me in class. And while I'm teaching the lesson, I'll be like, hold on, I got to text, this is so-and-so's parent, and I'll text him in the middle. I don't know if that's the routine, but I know that parents love that. They love that when they need to get in contact with that educator about the student, that they have that expectation, and it happens quickly, because we can't pick up the phone and call a parent in the middle of it's not going to happen. But if I give the kids like an activity, and I go over to the side and text the parent and say, hey, this is what's going on, then I can either let the kid know your parent wants you and send them down to the office. They can call the parent. And the reason why I'm saying that is because as kids are going back to school, a lot of parents are going to feel anxious. A lot of parents are going to be apprehensive. They're going to have all sorts of feelings and emotions. And as I said, I can only control what goes on in my classroom. And the thing that's most relevant to me are the students. Okay, so if I can meet that parent's need and have them feel at ease about their student being in my classroom and being safe, I want to be able to make sure I do that. Okay, for all the parents that are, and I have more, but I don't want to take up too much time. For all the parents that are on this line, please call the school that your kid is attending and ask for the number to speak to the educator, and share with them what your feelings are, what your apprehensions are, and how you both can work together to make that kid's experience learning be its very best, okay? Because at the end of the day, the educator is going to come in with their own bias, their own expectations. One way to eliminate all of that and develop that relationship is speaking to the educator. You take the initiative. You call, you make an appointment, you go reach that educator, because I used to love when the parents came, and I had a better relationship with my parents than I did the colleagues in the building. They would say, how do you know all these parents, and why do they know you? Because guess what? At the end of the day, for me, my number one job and goal is to not only educate the kid, but to make sure that they're well-rounded, right? Not just the academics, but their well-being, mental, emotional, social. If those things is off, like Maslow said, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If those basic needs aren't met, the kid cannot cognitively and effectively learn, period. Okay? So if we're not, like, and again, I said teacher, pastor, right? Now I want to bring it back spiritual, right? All educators are teacher, pastors, okay? Again, it is our job to educate the student, but also bring the parent in to let them know that the school is that place that we are ministering to the family and to the student. And the more we minister to these families and students, the better we have a better society, okay? It is just not test scores. It is just not assessments. I used to kind of like brush that off, like that's secondary. The primary is the student, what their dreams are, what their aspirations, what their goals, and how can we guide that process that they can see it in their reality. If that's not happening, then we're not educating. We're just teaching to the test. And I don't want to knock that down, but that's what we're doing. And we shouldn't be doing. That's not what education is about. So
that's really good. Thank you so much. I think about something you said, that parents, I think it was so key when you said that parents basically want to know that the teachers that they have really care. And the only way that we know that you really care is when you show us that you care, not tell us that you care. And there's a lot of teachers that have been, oh, I care for your child. And show me that, right? Like I need to see that, right? I mean, my children are like way old now, but but the truth of the matter is, it's what you show them. That's key. Paul, I want to start.
And what you said, and what you show the parent too, baby. You know
That's
this.
what I'm talking about. The
Sometimes
parent.
I'd be in the house and my cell phone go off, be like, hold on, this is my student's parent. You'd be like, babe, it's 8 o'clock.
That's true. That's true. I know you. I'll be like, really? That's the parent? Really?
That's the parent. The parent just says, and I'm picking up the phone saying, hey, Miss So-and-so, what's going on?
Well,
So-and-so is not listening to me, and can you choose? And I'd be like, put so-and-so on the phone and
yeah, it's
try
very
to de-escalate this conflict that's in the house. Because again, when the parent and the student realizes that you have their best interest at heart and you can mediate on both of them, it changes the dynamic of how education flows. So,
well, I can definitely, again, I know he ain't lying. That's why I wouldn't have you on here if it wasn't true. But I want to start where you are. Apostle Coates had made a comment about you, Paul, and said, Paul, you have so much wisdom. We need more Black men with hands and our kids in school.
Bishop said,
yeah.
Bishop.
Yeah. And so I want to start there because the true, I wanted to have a segment with all male, African-American male teachers, understanding that there is sometimes a huge disparity of seeing yourself in your schools, right? And you, Paul, have actually worked in different school settings where you can honestly speak. The question I want to ask you is, what advice or guidance would you give to parents who seek male role models, aka teachers, educators in the building that might be lacking?
That's a good question. And I'm sorry, I'm going to answer this like kind of.
That's
like,
okay.
Okay. First and foremost, if there are Black educators in the building, right? Because again, that's a huge dynamic, right? They're not there, right? If they are in the building, then again, it's that fostering that relationship, right? Like, hey, I see so-and-so, and talking to that educator and figuring out whether or not the educator first can in fact do it, right? I just happen to be in a very unique situation that many of the kids who had behavioral issues, academic issues, those kids that the school was like, we got to put this kid in a small setting. I'm like, it's not a small setting. This kid got some issues going on beyond the extent of the classroom. And we need to deal with that. But, many times the schools are not really situated to go outside of the classroom because their main priority is in the classroom. Even that's their mantra, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, if they have issues, once they come into the classroom, we're going to educate them into well-being. No, that's far from the truth, right? For me, I think because my mindset has always been mental health and that therapeutic aspect, I recognize that I got to deal with this first in order to get them to be successful in the classroom, right? So I think that there has to be a paradigm shift in education where I don't want to say educators have to go and be therapists because that's another task on their to-do list, right? And they can't, because you have to have real formal training to be able to truly de-escalate, truly make connections, truly make relationships. That's like a whole nother dynamic, right? I think it's just more than just saying this, like have Black men do it. No, like you have to know your student, and the parent has to develop a relationship with that male role model. And then the school has to get out the way and let that male role model, who may be African-American, develop what's needed for that kid. Mm-hmm. Many times inside the school, what'll happen is they'll come up with a program and then they say, Mr. Black man, implement it. And the Black man is saying, that's not how this is gonna work. Mm-hmm. Okay. It has to be, and I don't want to make this about race because it's not about race, but culturally, sometimes, African Americans and Caucasians are different, right? Mm-hmm. And, I'm not going to name the school, but I worked in a predominantly Caucasian school. I had great relationships with everybody, babe, you know this, right? Everybody really loved me, but it's because I was able to be, authentic with them and let them know that just because the color of my skin is my color, it doesn't mean that I don't understand culturally some of the things that you do, right? It's that you really don't understand culturally the things that affect the students in which you're teaching because you're not aware of it because of your own biases, right? So I think the school should empower more men of color to be able to develop the program that will best meet the needs to the kids. Not just read a book on someone wrote a book and it sounds good, looks good, so we're going to do. No, that's not how that works. And let me just even say this: if anyone goes to a therapist, right? Just because a kid has ADHD, that doesn't mean that the prescription for ADHD works for every kid. No, right. The therapist has to get to know the client to be able to figure out how best to help the client. It's the same program in school. What you do in the North County is going to be different than what you do in South County because culturally they're different. Okay, yeah. When I taught in North County, I was like, why are you guys even behaving like this? But that's the culture up in North County, as opposed to when I was teaching in South County. Like, yo, man, and baby, I used to say this, so many kids were related to each other. And I'm saying, you guys are you're in and out, you guys are related to each other. I don't like him because so-and-so. Because of the culture of this hood against that hood against this hood. You got to know the language in order to mitigate how best to meet the needs. That same prescription that you were doing in the South, you're not going to take that up in North County because guess what? It's a different program, a different way of thinking. So I think you need to let those challenges that sometimes affect our minority students, namely our Black students, you need to allow the person of that, and I don't want to say color because it's not about color, but allow the male to be able to develop how best to meet that kid's needs, to mentor that kid, to be able to get that kid where they need. So.
That's really good. Which brings me to another point. Nikki, you took your
time
and go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, can I just piggyback off of that? Please. Kind of from a different standpoint on the fact that we need more males. Number one, definitely minority males is. As parents, we need to be involved in our child's school. We need to be a part of PTA. We need to make sure that our voice is heard. We need to be running for the PTA president. We need to make decisions that will help to change the culture of a school. So it's really easy to sit back and say, this doesn't work and they don't have this. And I don't like it, when my kid goes to school and doesn't see this person or that person or whatever. So I feel like change comes about making your voice heard. Like, you need to be a part of your child's school. You need to have a voice in your child's building. And when you can volunteer, get in the building so you see what's going on. When you can meet with the principal or you can go to a board meeting, do that to bring about some type of change. Maybe that change is small. You know what I mean? Maybe that change is really, really small, but small changes yield big outcomes. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, if you do that and somebody else is doing it and somebody else is doing it, then we bring about change. So I always think back to like when I was at Eastport growing up, and I know probably when Kendra was at like Mills Parole, I saw like somebody shout out Mills Parole on the thing. But when we were in school, our parents were a part of our school. Our school was a family, and our parents were a part of the education process. They were able to speak to what was needed in the community. Other things like our faith-based organizations were a part of our schools. Like we were a community. So it's really, really important that we make sure we make our voice known, that we are present and that we are bringing community back into educating our children. Because right now it looks like the entities are separate. It's the community, it's the church, it's the school. That's not going to work. There's no way that works. It has to be where we are all intertwined together, educating our children overall, back to what Paul said, the whole child, making sure that they understand every single process and how they need to go about being productive citizens in the world we live in. And then a challenge to all of our minority educators is we need to show up correct.
That's good.
Don't show up when you're doing things and you're not giving your 100%. When you show up educated, show up taking that workshop, show up giving extra time to be able to intercede or, be there and just help and pray for your families and be there and be present. I heard Kendra say something, I wrote it down. Speaking over your classroom, praying over your classroom. Yes, as a believer, that is what we're supposed to do. But at the end of the day, I want to know, what are you doing to better yourself? Because where's your wisdom? Where's the thing that makes you show up and be qualified to do what you need to do? God gave you a gift to use. Go in and use that gift appropriately.
Absolutely.
Stop showing up. And I mean, I'm going to say this, and I don't mean it in any offensive way. Don't show up at the table, and because I'm Black, I have a voice. I'm Black. I have
that
a voice.
entitlement. That
No,
entitlement piece.
I'm showing up at the table because my work gives me a seat at this table. I just happen to be an African-American woman who is going to use that also to help my children, to help my families. But when I show up, I want to show up with integrity. I want to know when I roll my chair in at that table and I walk out, you shouldn't be able to speak ill will of me. Kendra says this to me all the time. Your name, right? That's important. Your name is important. And it's not a boastful thing. You know, there are times I don't agree with stuff. There are times I feel like I'm going to lose it. There are times I'm like, oh, did I go in the right profession? You know, but at the end of the day, he gives us a gift, right? Some people are musicians. Some people can sing. They can do this. They can do that. We have gifts as educators. Go in correct. Don't go in just with a woman of prayer. And my mama and my grandmother said I was good. And go in, take the class, read the book, do the study, look at things so that you go in ready to educate and you can sit at the table educated and you know what you're talking about. And that is the challenge for educators, especially minority educators. Go in prepared.
Yeah, this is good. Yes, Kendra.
I just wanted to chime in. As you're going to the table, don't be intimidated by other people that's at the table that don't look like you.
Good. That's good.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, because I've actually experienced that myself, being at the table. Oh, I know this, but they don't really want to hear from me. No, Kendra, you need to say it because it affects your community. Absolutely. You need to say what you need to say. You need to do what you're supposed to do. You've been called for such a time as this. At the end of the day, we are birthed with a purpose. God has sanctioned us to educate these children, to help them, to usher them into their purpose and their destiny by any means necessary. We are on a strategic assignment. The enemy is after our children. He's after our educators. He's after people that want to just annihilate the dark kingdom of darkness. And so we are supposed to be on assignment. That means by any means necessary, we're supposed to do what we're supposed to do. So that means, guess what? I don't feel like taking this class, but I'm going to take this class because it's going to better somebody else. It's going to benefit somebody else. Guess what? Johnny acts crazy in this class, though. I heard about Johnny acting crazy with this teacher. But you know what? When Johnny comes into my room,
that's
right. I'm going to speak that over him before he even gets there. That's what some things that I need to figure out what Johnny needs, just like Paul says, building those relationships. Well, Johnny, guess what? You're going to do this, and Miss Buckles going to do this. We're going to work together to get this done. Let your kids know that you're a fight for them. That's
that's good.
If they know that you'll fight for them, they will let you anywhere.
Yeah,
and they will do anything you ask them to do.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, and our parents, that's right. Show up, be an advocate. Don't just. They should not hear from you when something's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, they should not. And always, my mother used to do this all the time. I would be like, why is she dressed up? Yeah. Every time it was a parent meeting, Charlotte Newton would be at the school dressed to the nine. Mom, why are you dressed up? Because guess what? I'm having a seat at the table.
Absolutely.
They don't know what they're playing. They expect me to show up and be ignorant, but I'm not. I'm going to come here. I'm going to be educated. I'm going to show up. I'm going to be properly attired. And I'm going to advocate for my kid. You are parents. You are your biggest kid. You're the biggest advocate for your kid. No one knows your child like you, right? So when people are speaking negative, guess what? You better come back with the positive and give them something to work with. Did you try this? All right. Well, let's see what happens when you're called. And please stop dodging the teacher when they call.
That's a good one.
What? Sometimes it's not for a bad thing. That's what Brother Paul was talking about.
That's right.
Answer the phone.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
It's okay to call. And sometimes it's okay to answer because you don't know if it's an emergency. You don't know. Maybe the child had a meltdown, especially in this atmosphere right now. It's so many uncertainties every day. And we all need grace and patience, right?
Yeah.
So help that teacher out. If they're calling, that kid can have a meltdown about them having anxiety over someone sneezing.
Yeah.
Or having allergies.
It's true. It's true.
I would have the anxiety if they sneeze. You know me. Did you sneeze? Hold on. Did you sneeze? Hold on. Open the windows. Open the windows.
Exactly.
Take it off. Take it off.
I gotta put this disclaimer out there. I know Nikki gonna say something. Don't put your anxiety on your children.
I was coming for it. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Sometimes I'm like, oh Lord, I'm scared. I'm like, oh, I gotta tell my kids I'm scared though. Guess what? I'm gonna do it afraid. I'm gonna act like I'm okay. God got it. I might be like, ooh, shaking them in the inside, but I will never open my mouth to say it.
Yeah. That's good. That, I think that is so key. But again, that goes to the parent side, right? And the educator side. Sometimes we have to be reminded that what our issues are is not our children's issues, or it's not our colleagues' issues. But we, because it's what we believe, we sometimes have a tendency, knowingly and unknowingly, to put that expectation on the next person. I've told a story before where we had some really good friends. At the time, we used to have cats. And one, it was a married couple, and the husband of the couple would come to the house with the children, and they were fine, and they'd play with the cat. But then when the wife of the couple would come with the kids, the wife was like, ow, ow, and she'd be on the couch and very scared. And what ended up happening is, because the children observed the parent being afraid of a cat, after a while, when they would come with the father, they would react the same way the mother did. Why? Because of the mother's anxiety. They felt that this was a thing that I should operate in, a place of fear of this cat. Nothing ever happened with the cat, but all of a sudden they were afraid. They began to operate from that perspective. So we have to be careful, because we are people of influence, right? And if you are a person of influence, you're going to influence people to good and to bad. There is no such a thing. You can only influence somebody to do good, to do good, or to operate in a good way. We also cause people to operate in a way that is not good for them.
Right.
And again,
right.
Knowingly and unknowingly. And so one of the things I would encourage educators and parents is to ask God to give you the wisdom and the guidance and the care and the grace and the mercy and the patience and all of these things that we have just talked about, so we know how to operate daily. Your grace for today is different grace that you're going to need for tomorrow, because every day creates a new challenge. But the word of God says God has given us new mercies every day. Thank God, because he already knew that every day we were going to do something we weren't supposed to do, or every day we were going to miss the mark in some kind of way. And so if we can lead with that, that will be helpful. Nikki, you was going to say something.
Yeah, you started off the broadcast by saying something about wellness and practicality. What is that? What did you say?
We here at Worship and Wellness, we believe in biblical principles, because we believe that the Bible comes with tons and tons of principles that we work from, but it's with biblical principles with practical steps. It takes to put things into practice what the principle is. So in other words, it's easy to say, that it's important to save, because what you save today is going to be better later, but then you got to put it into practice. How much are you putting? Put 5 cents away, put $5 away, $50 away, whatever. You have to put it into practice.
So the reason I wanted you to repeat that, and I didn't want to repeat it the wrong way, is I was really thinking about the quote. I just kind of had it mixed up a little bit in the way you said it, and thinking about Kendra saying not to put your anxiety as an educator or a parent onto your kids. Now is the time for you to do the work for yourself. So there are so many adults who, including myself, you have sat in whatever it is that you have sat in that has allowed you to be there where you are, whether it's that you deal with a level of anxiety that sometimes gets out of control, whether it's that you deal with trust issues, whether it's unforgiveness, whether therapist. I never trusted the school system before. Well, what's the root of all of these things that cause you to pass down those qualities to your children that aren't good qualities, right? So now is the time for us to do the work for ourselves, on ourselves. So if you are not having that conversation with yourself, if you are not seeking counsel, if you are not, even biblically, spiritually getting into your word more, if you are not talking to people who are steering you in the right direction, don't call your girlfriend who is just as anxious as you and try to, y'all gonna be anxious together and both of y'all gonna be, giving the same thing to your kids. Don't do that. You know what I mean? Look for your strength wherever it's going to come. Look for your healing where it's going to come. It is a time, I feel like God has given us this time to get ourselves together. We say that all the time, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to get myself together. Or I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But now is the time to get yourself together. Go and seek counseling for yourself. Go read the book. I wrote this down because this is important to me. Self-care. Stop teaching people about self-care when they turn 46. Did you hear me? Stop teaching them at 46. Start teaching your children what self-care looks like. Start teaching your children that when they come home and they had a rough day, it is okay for them to take a bubble bath. It is okay for them to decide to go outside and take a walk. Teach your children what self-care is. Stop waiting until we get 46, 47, 48. Then I'm going to call this therapist. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do self-care. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to do all of these things. You can teach your 7-year-old how to do all of those things. You can teach them so that when they become 40, it is not something that's brand new. It is not something that's like, I don't know how to take care of myself socially and emotionally. Teach our children early on. Somebody talked about coping skills. I think it was Kendra. About coping skills. Here's a very practical strategy. Sit at your table before your child leaves for school on Wednesday, or if they've already gone to school, sit at your table, get an index card, and you and your children come up with 3 coping skills that they can use in their classroom, in their school environment while they are at school. Put that index card in the front of their book bag. If that is, they're going to close their eyes and they're going to say a silent prayer. If that coping skill is, they're going to raise their hand and ask, can they use the restroom? Even if they don't have to use the restroom, but they just need to walk down the hall. If that coping skill is going to be, they're going to request to go see their school counselor because maybe they have a good relationship with them. I don't know what it is. Maybe they are just thinking of positive pictures in their head, something that brings them joy. Whatever it is, if you got Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, Google coping skills, it's going to give you about 50 or 60 different things that you could come up with. But find the coping skills, 3, 4, 5 or something, and put them on a card so that that kid goes to school and says, you know what? I'm feeling a little anxiety. I'm feeling a little like, okay, I'm going to go to one of my coping skills right now. That is what we need to teach our children so that when they become 30, 40, 50, they are not coping with anxiety, anger, frustration, stress in the wrong way.
That's
then,
so true.
Then they go into deliverance ministry, right? We go into deliverance ministry because we cope the wrong way, right? Somebody give me some strategies early on because my kids our kids can do this. And stop letting our kids just follow our lead. I do this, so my kids do it. Nope. God created them so-and-so. He created you. That's your name. My name is Nikki. My kids are Layla and Katie. We operate differently. You know what I mean? Give them the strategies that they need to be successful. They're kids, but guess what? They're going to grow to be adults. And maybe if they have those strategies early on, they will become so embedded in their heads and in their hearts that they will use them appropriately. So that's really, really important.
Thank you for saying that. You was right up in my alley. For the sake of time, right? We're this is so good. Like I don't want to end at 7:30. So we may have to have a part 2, y'all. Would y'all come back if I have y'all back for a part 2? Yes?
Baby, you're gonna have to talk to my agent.
I can't with you. That's a yes. Okay, so I am your agent, and so therefore it's a yes. Okay. This is so good. This is so good. We're almost finished. There's with the last 5 minutes, I want to kind of stick with Nikki where you are. And the question is, navigating the systems can be challenging for a parent, right? And it's easy to say get this and get that. What would be your suggestion, if you can give 1 or 2 suggestions or points on what a parent can do to navigate the system a little bit, right? How do I access my counselor? How do I access the teacher? Sometimes, as a parent, you don't know where to begin. Or you begin at where you know to begin, which might be the front desk administration. But if they're nasty, I've worked in school systems where their admin is nasty, and you just got to go look online, and you don't know what to do. So a lot of times it's the teacher that the parent is confined to, right? And sometimes you may not get a good teacher, and then it puts a parent on defense, because one thing I will say as parents, I don't care, good parent or not good parent, we don't play about our children, okay? And so it causes us to operate from a place of what we know. Mm-hmm. If we don't know better, we don't do better. So what would you say? What guidance would you give a parent to help with navigating the system of their child's school? And what would you give what guidance or what words of encouragement would you give your colleague? So it's 2-part, because I want to hit the educator and the parent. I'll say it again. What guidance or words of wisdom you can give a parent in regards to navigating the system as far as their child's school, and what words of encouragement would you give your colleague?
Are we going in any particular order?
I don't care.
Okay. I have one of them. I'm not sure I have the other one yet, but advice to navigate for the parent system is, I think it's really important for parents to latch on to the person in the building you have the relationship with, right? It could be the front office staff. It could be your child's teacher. It could be your child's school counselor. I'm going to hope and pray in Anne Arundel County, it is your child's school counselor that you have a great relationship with, because that's what we should be doing, right? Yep. Okay. That's a like word of encouragement for all my counselors, right? So that you should be able to call us, and you should be able to help. We should be able to help you navigate to where you need to be. Another thing is, every school system, as far as I know, has a web page, right? And it usually has the emails and the phone numbers and things like that. I'm all into BCCing and CCing on an email, right? I might have sent it to you, but I'm a BCC or I'm a CC. I'm a CC your principal, right? I'm a CC your school counselor, just in case you forgot that you got it on Tuesday. Your principal and your school counselor did see it on Tuesday. So that's what you do. You know what I mean? So use those things. Sometimes, I don't know if anybody else feels this way, getting things across in writing sometimes are easier for me, because then when we come face to face to talk about it, you have like everything that I need. You know what I mean? So send those emails, copy other people on them, so there's a different point of view. I always say go to your school counselor, because that's kind of like our middle ground. We're there to advocate for the students, for the parents, and for the families. And so we kind of can push where we need to push. Family stuff, I do push to a PPW like Paul. You know what I mean? Teacher stuff or resource stuff. Hey, Mrs. Bethel. Hey, Kendra, can you help me with this? I don't understand this. So kind of maybe using your school counselor as your middle person is good, to do that. And then if you feel like you're not getting a response, to just go higher sometimes, because it's not to be mean against that particular person. Maybe the person's just busy and they didn't per se get the email, or they didn't, that happens. But if there's no wrong in it, then I don't feel like the person would feel bad if they got like a little call from their principal, like, oh, Miss So-and-so says she didn't get in touch with you. Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't my fault. I didn't mean to do that. I'll call her. So I think it's really important. And at the end of the day, what did you say? We're our child's biggest advocates. We will do anything for our children. So I can't make apologies when I'm trying to do something that's right for my child. I can't make a whole bunch of apologies. I hope that you see my heart and know that my children are the most important thing to me. So, and I'm going to come back for my words of encouragement to an educator. Maybe I just gave one. Okay. To school counselors. Cool. Maybe I just gave one.
Okay, cool. Kendra, Paul.
Okay, so my guidance to parents would be the first thing is check your child's book bag.
Nice.
Right?
Oh my God.
So many times our teachers and educators write these great back to school letters, and guess what? They're still in there in December.
Oh my gosh, that's an elementary teacher for you.
Okay. So check your child's book bag. If they're older, I know I have a high schooler now, and they send me at least 5 emails a day. So Make sure that you read the emails.
Yeah.
And if you have questions, reach out. The second thing is email your child's teacher and introduce yourself.
Yes.
Say who you are, say something, a little blurb about your kid and how you're happy to have a great year and how you want to support them. Guess what? That's like an underlying thing for the teacher. That gives us, like, not saying it's smooth sailing, but it's like, oh, this person is in it to win it. They're in there buying into their kids' education. They're going to show up. If I need some wipes, I might could get some from them, right? If I need a little extra push in the middle of the year, all I got to do is call. You know what I mean? So make sure you do that. And attend back to school night and other parent nights, right? So throughout the county, we have all these parent nights, family nights of things that help our kids learn or that can be engaging with your family. And sometimes, you might not want to go, but it does look great. And it's great information. You can learn what your child's learning. It's family time you're spending together. And most of the teachers show up for that, right? Because we want to be engaged with our staff and our kids and stuff. And my mom used to do this all the time, and I'm a parent that does it too. I don't know what we can do in this pandemic, but pop in, do pop-ups if you can. I'm not sure what they'll allow right now, but as soon as they can, do pop-ups just to see what your kid is doing, just to see what they're learning.
Yeah.
All right. And my word of encouragement, this is actually for the parents too. So Nikki and I saw this thing on Facebook and we both put a plug in it. It's called Handle with Care, right? So if your child is having a rough day or a rough night or something has happened, all you have to do is email your child's teacher, your counselor. You don't have to tell us what's going on, but you might want to say, handle with care. It gives us a heads up about, they may need some extra love today, extra time out, a little something, maybe a little piece of candy in their pocket. I don't know. But it tells us a heads up about something that's going on. It's called Handle with Care. So you can actually put that in the topic for your email. Mm-hmm. And a word of encouragement to my colleagues would be set boundaries for yourself, realistic boundaries. Don't stay in there in the building because we can do it till like 6 and 7 at night because you still want to work on. Guess what? You still want to work on stuff, but it's going to be there the next day. It's still going to be there. So set boundaries for yourself, realistic boundaries. Give yourself grace and patience and teach your kids. Just teach. You love teaching. You love making a difference. It's showtime. When you're in the classroom, it's showtime. Give them whatever that kid needs. Love on them, support them, praise and reward them, and be calm, honest, and caring. Mm-hmm. And just be very and pull on your colleagues if you need a boost. I could always get a good laugh from a couple of people, and so if you need a laugh, you know who to go to. Call on that person. And then I gotta put this in there because that's who I am. I was at school and this lady asked me, what gives you the right to pray for somebody? She was talking about me being in the building. I said, because I'm called to pray. That's what God gave me, that gift. I have a gift to pray, right? So even if you don't hear me, even if you don't see me, I can still have my prayer language to communicate with God. And so that I would encourage you to do constantly. And stay prayed up.
That's good.
I love that. Use your gift of prayer. Use your gift of prayer. It's not about what you necessarily do. You don't have to make it a big scene about it. God hears you whether you whisper it, whether you speak it out loud, or whether you say it internally. Their prayer works. Prayer still works. This is worship and wellness, and I'm telling you, prayer still works. Do not forsake prayer. That's right. It is so key. Sometimes you might be loving on your student and praying for them at the same time. They don't need to know all that. Sometimes you're dealing with a difficult parent and you can be praying right as they going up that blah, 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 and you just are praying before you know that go blah, 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 blah. you know what, Miss Kendra or Miss Nikki, I don't mean to be nasty, right? They done changed the whole tone. They don't know it's because that prayer was working right then and there.
That's right.
Use your gift of prayer because God will hear you. As a parent, if you got a teacher or an educator that you believe is not for your child's good, prayer still works. You don't have to be nasty and belligerent. God will handle them in a way that we can never handle them. So I want to hear Paul's insight on navigating both sides. You know, what the answer to the question. I don't forgot what I said because all this is so good. Go on, Paul. What you want to say? And then we'll close out.
You said navigation for the parent, right? Yeah. Okay.
I said what navigating the systems, right? Like what. And y'all gonna have to help me because I done shifted to
one thing for the parent, one thing for the
yes.
Okay. So the thing I would say to the parent is, please send the school your updated contact information. Okay. That usually is always just when a parent needs to get contact, sometimes the school has the wrong information. Okay. I know in my classroom, like I said, I just handle my classroom, the kids I taught, all the parents had my number. Like I put it on the board and I was like, I'm Mr. So-and-so. Here's my direct number. It is my cell phone. You can call me, text me, but please, every single parent, text me your number, your email, your everything. Because if I don't have it, then I can't contact you. And the parents, they'll be like, right then, because guess what? I need that information. So if you can, for every parent here, if you can always, just check in with the school, make sure they have the updated information, email address, correct address, the actual address to your house. So when they're sending you things, it's important. Okay. But I'm serious. Yeah, everybody's laughing. I'm serious.
You're right. You're right. That's why we're laughing because we understand.
Okay. Another thing I would say for the parent is, and I'm piggybacking a little bit off of Nikki, but I used to tell my parents that, listen, I know every county has it. I forgot what Anne Arundel calls it, like the parent portal where you can check the grades, the attendance, every assignment. That's another thing. Once you get past elementary and you're in middle school, very much middle school and definitely high school, every assignment is weighted. It's counted, okay? And those assessments really impact your overall GPA, right? If the parent really wants to be vested, you should be using that portal. You should sign up, do everything you need to do, because guess what? Every single assignment, you can see it. And I used to tell all the parents, listen, if you have a problem, you don't know what your kid is doing, not doing, let me help you so you can get logged in so that there is no problems. You can see everything, not just my class, all the classrooms, okay? To me, those two things are the most empowering thing a parent can do to be fully vested in their students' education well-being. Beyond reaching the counselor or the teacher, if the parent does those two things, guess what? You don't need to talk to the teacher, because guess what? You're going to know everything based on what you see. It's at your disposal, okay? So I would say those two things. And then for my educators, okay, educators, many times are type A personalities. They have a structure and a routine. Educators, counselors, everybody's in education. They're usually very type A, right? But sometimes they're type A in the lesson delivery, right? They're not type A in the routine delivery. And kids, all kids, elementary, middle, and high school, they need consistent routines day in and day out, okay? And I'm going to go a little bit off the tangent, but I'm not going to be long, okay? I'm going to get psychological here. The frontal lobe of the brain for a kid, right?
Come on, frontal lobe, you better teach.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go therapeutic here. I'm going to go a little therapeutic here.
Okay, so go ahead.
The executive functioning of the brain for a kid, like when I used to have kids who were special ed, right? They had IEPs. The parent used to say, things to me, but like, I don't know how you're so patient with these kids. This kid gets on my nerve. And I'd be like, hey, listen, here's the reality. The frontal lobe of the kid, they need to, society does a real good job labeling kids. but it's not really the label, right? It's that part of the brain that has not developed fully. And because it hasn't developed fully, it's really not a label. It's not ADHD or ADD or ODD or OCD. We define it those things because of the symptoms that we see. But really what's happening is that inside of the kids, that adolescent mind, that middle school mind, that high school mind, the kid has a learning deficit. And sometimes in order to compensate that learning deficit, they have to practice routines and expectations constantly. Okay. So I used to tell the parents in our special ed needs, like, listen, I told the kid, take out the garbage, for example. And I told him yesterday, take out the garbage. And the day before, take out the garbage. I'm saying, like for the average adolescent mind, they need to rehearse something, and it's research driven. They need to rehearse the same skill about 50 times. Okay, the adolescent brain. So if you told the kid to take out the garbage and the kid forgot to do it, you have to tell that kid who doesn't have any deficit. This is just a normal developing mind that is maturing on its normal progression. They're going to have to do that same skill about 50 times. If you have a kid who has a deficit, a known deficit, you're going to have to quadruple it. Okay, so it's not 50, it's really 200 before they actually learn the skill. Okay, when we talk about learning, that's what learning is, right? Whether you're an athlete or you have to practice. That's why you practice, right? You practice that play repeatedly so that you actually learn how to run the play. Well, when you're dealing with education and learning and long-term memory, short-term memory, memory recall, some kids learn on different spectrums, right? And it's not only academically, it is also socially, okay? So as a parent or a colleague, my colleague, you have to learn to be able to reiterate this information that you may have said the day before 50 times. Okay, in order for, and I'm saying, and I don't want to dismiss anybody's kid, the kid who doesn't have the IEP, we define those kids as being like, regular ed kid, right? The kid who has an IEP, we say they're regular ed, but they have some deficits, right? The regular ed kid needs 50 times to rehearse the action before they actually learn it. If your kid has a deficit, they're going to need about 200 times. Because that part of their frontal lobe has not developed, or there are deficits that is affecting how they process, internalize the information for them to learn it, to display it to us. For our colleagues, this time where these kids are returning to school, they're going to have issues with keeping the face mask on. They're going to have issues sitting down. They're going to have issues. Yeah. And as Kendra and Nikki said, grace and patience, right? We're going to have that patience. We're going to have the patience with the parents because they're going to be all over the place, okay? And those routines that you develop in that classroom, I cannot stress it enough, is going to keep. It may not help what happens outside your classroom, but in your classroom, the kids are going to feel safe. They're going to want to come here. They're going to want to sit here. Even when they're frustrated outside, the kids used to have an argument with another staff member, another educator, and they'd be like, I'm going to go see Mr. So-and-so. And they would barge in my room and like, what are you doing here? And they would say, I got to come in here and calm down. It's because of the environment that I established in that classroom. They knew that as much as they were acting belligerent to the other educator, they knew that in order for you to walk in my classroom, you have to walk in here quietly and have a seat. And I may not be able to get to you at that moment. And they're going to sit down and they're going to take out a sheet of paper and they're going to start writing down information because guess what? That was the routine I set in my classroom. So they knew, any kid knew, if I'm going to barge into Mr. So-and-so's room, I better keep my mouth shut because guess what? The kids have a right to learn. It's not fair to them. And I'm going to find a seat in the back of the room and I'm going to write down what happened. And I'm going to be safe. Mr. So-and-so is going to protect me from the principal or the vice principal is going to barge into my room to grab the kid because the kid probably did something really disrespectful, right? And they knew that, hey, listen, I got the kid. Leave the kid here. After the period, we'll process and figure out what's going on. Those routines are extremely extremely important. So if you can do that, consistency. Every day for the first 2 or 3 weeks of school, every day you have to go over the routines. Put 5 minutes aside in the beginning of class, 5 minutes aside at the end of the class to go over the routines. Make it a game with the kids. Make it, I used to do a lot of games in the room. I love sports. So I would throw my football in the room. The kids would get hyped up. They'd be jumping over the desk over each other. Desk is falling. I wouldn't even care because guess what? Here's reality. Everybody's having fun and they're learning. Okay. However you develop that routines in your classroom is what you need to do as the educator because you're in control of your classroom. And, that's it. So,
really, 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 really good stuff. I tried to capture a lot of what was said. I know we're a little bit over our time. However, this has been so vital. My prayer is that when we're done, for those of us that have Facebook, that you reshare it again, because I think it's so crucial. I am going to probably pull on you guys again for a part 2. So be prepared, and thank you for saying yes today. And it's on tape, so I don't have to worry about you saying.
Call my agent.
I am your agent, and therefore, we would like to bring this to a close. My prayer is that every educator, every parent that's watching, that just take the one thing that if I didn't get anything else out of today, grace and patience. Give it to yourself. Give yourself as a parent grace and patience. Give yourself grace and patience as an educator. Know that you will not be able to accomplish everything, but you can accomplish what you can accomplish in that day. And so take the time to know that you can use the word of God and apply biblical principles in your classroom, in your day-to-day with your colleagues, with your administrators, and then take care of each other, right? Find somebody in your building that can be your accountability partner, not someone that's going to only just validate what you say because it's what you feel, but is going to be honest with you, caring with you, and help to support you when you are having that day that you are just not feeling it. Honesty and transparency will guard you, take you a long way. So tonight has been amazing. I am so excited for each and every one of you. We have had a lot of good comments. Normally I would ask people if they wanted to ask a question to ask, but we can get the questions on day 2. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you, Kendra, Nikki, and Paul, for joining me on tonight. Worship and Wellness. Remember, we believe in biblical principles with practical steps. I love you all. Thank you and have a wonderful evening. If you guys can remain, and I'm going to end the broadcast. Good night, everybody. You guys
want me to remain, Dave? You want me to remain?
Yes, everybody. Thank you.